Yeah, I've seen this movie, bro. Look at this. This is actually a good movie.
I've got some yellow liquid for your popcorn.
Look at this, dude. Like, hi. They did that shit, bro, with this movie. People are gonna go, what do you mean? Shit like that. It's a meme movie.
And welcome to Movie Plots. Today we
I've seen this fucking movie, dude.
2002's Kung Pao Under the Fist. Spoilers
Kung
ahead.
Pao.
A family has dinner
She's
in
got
a
one
remote part
titty.
of China when a mysterious man arrives and quickly kills them. The
Yeah,
baby
the
is
hand.
confirmed to be the chosen one,
The hand.
and Master Pain tries to kill him. The chosen, however, has skills and fights back. Master Pain struggles to catch the baby, and instead
And the
decides
baby
to just
rolls
burn
down the
house
hill.
down. The baby escapes from the hut
Yeah.
before going over the side of a steep hill. A passing woman picks him up like she is going to take him in, before throwing him back down. The chosen one grew up in the wilderness, battling his way through the landscape and partying with the desert creatures.
And it's where they teach a guy wrong, dude. They teach a motherfucker wrong. Dude, he's actually got a good body. But they teach a motherfucker wrong, and they teach him to block everything with his face.
In search
As
of
a
the
joke.
person who killed his family, Chosen encounters ferocious adversaries, which he has to engage in combat with. He travels to a village where he encounters Master Tang, a sick old teacher. To show Tang who he is, Chosen opens his mouth,
Hello.
revealing Tongue. According to Tang, his master once told him that there would be a Chosen, so he decides to train him. To the frustration of trainee Wimp Lo, who was intentionally misstrained as a
Look.
joke.
He
and
blocks
walks
everything
around
with his
squeaky
face.
shoes that match his whiny voice.
I will.
Chosen also meets the attractive Ling, who initially comes off as shy but soon
Ling
warms
Ling,
up.
I think her name is.
There you go.
She also screams non-stop when speaking. Wimp Lo challenges Chosen to a fight out of jealousy,
Bro.
Like milk dud.
but he believes that the more he is bleeding, the better he is at fighting. Ling tries to break up the fight before a messenger enters the arena, announcing
Yeah, and then
that
the
Master Pain has been
UFOs
spotted in town.
start
I'm
attacking
leaving,
and shit.
making me the victor.
Chosen recognizes the description as the person who murdered his family
Perhaps a carbonated soda.
and enters the city in disguise to see him.
Bro,
observes
that
Master Pain's
carbonated
incredible
soda
tolerance
shit,
by-
it's from the real movie.
Taking a brutal beating to the balls. Master Pain declares that he will now go by the name Betty. Chosen tries to train in the same
This is
way,
not a meme, by the way. When it's
but is
just
knocked
a
out and
Betty
beaten
and not a
until he
meme.
says otherwise.
Yeah,
When he
he's.
awakens, a uni-boob approaches him and introduces herself as Woe.
And whoa.
Okay.
She tells him that he possesses the supreme gift to defeat Betty. She cautions him not to fight Betty yet, and that he should beware the
Such a
meta.
shit movie, dude.
Chosen fights her a little,
Yeah.
then Tongue fights her a
Yeah.
little more. Then she flies away. The following day, Master Tang confronts Betty and threatens to fight him. Betty gets one of his goons to start playing Baby Got Back on his jukebox, as they begin to fight. Tang is unable to continue the fight due to his health, and enrages Betty by referring to him as Sally.
It's Betty, you son of a pig. The name is...
In spite of Woe's warning, Chosen makes the decision to go and fight Betty.
I implore you to reconsider.
Ling initially declines his request to reveal Betty's location out of fear, but she eventually tells him.
Why?
Chosen passes through the same meadow Woe had warned him about, when
Whoa.
he meets Betty's protector.
Whoa.
The cow
Yeah.
attacks Chosen with kung fu, followed by milk bullets from her udder.
Yeah.
But Chosen avoids the shots, and milks her until she is completely drowned. Chosen triumphantly exits the meadow and keeps going, until he comes across Betty swinging a chain atop a waterfall.
Lying in the chair.
A man reveals himself to be Ling's father and intervenes to stop Chosen from fighting him. Though Betty defeats them both easily, and they're thrown over the waterfall, followed by a whale. They both survive, and Chosen brings Ling's father back to town. When they find Master Tang, he immediately recognizes Ling's father as Master Do, his old mentor. While Master Do rests, he warns Tang that if Betty can enlist the aid of the evil council, he will be unstoppable. Despite Tang's
He's
efforts to
doing-
save
he's
him
doing-
using Neosporin and massage techniques, he dies. Chosen comforts Ling, who is grieving the loss of her father. She gives him conflicting signals about whether to romance her. That evening, Chosen looks to the skies for guidance. His prayers are answered by Mushu Fasa. Chosen
Bro,
is advised to
what
continue
the-
his training, and to look to the stars above.
Mushu Fasa.
Betty demonstrates his magic by changing the
Somebody
color
was
of the
high.
mayor's clothing from blue to red,
Wow.
before being informed that Chosen is still alive.
He's still alive, Betty.
Next
And
day,
that's how
Ling
they
shows
actually
up at a
speak in the
courtyard with
movie.
two hanging
Yeah.
ventriloquists, before being seized by Betty in search of Chosen. She refuses to tell him where he is, and is let escape as bait. Master Tang goes for a walk in the nearby fields. When he hears bird calls come from the long grass,
I'm just a birdie too.
Betty attacks Tang,
Oh yeah, he gets
playing his
attacked.
music and defeating him with his iron claw. Wimp Lo makes an effort to play the hero, but dies, his squeaky shoes deflating. Ling finds Chosen, but a net the size of his head is thrown at him, and he passes out. Chosen is forced to run back in time to escape the net. After getting free, he discovers
Bro.
Wimp Lo's dead body in the reeds. As he follows the sounds of moaning, he finds Tang, Ling, and his dog all slowly dying, with Wimp Lo being the only one actually dead. Chosen trains to remove the two metal spikes on Betty's chest that are the source of his power. However, because the spikes are too smooth, every attempt fails. Ling tries to assist him that evening, pouring lemon juice, salt, and liquid mercury from a thermometer into his hands.
It hurts.
Then hums creepily as she rubs his hands through her hair, before lighting them ablaze. Chosen can now remove
Now
the
his hands
spikes
are
from the
rough.
dummies,
Yeah.
saying that his first impression of Ling was that of a psychotic bitch. The evil council then summons Betty, and tells him they will assist in defeating Chosen.
Thank you.
Chosen thinks over the best way to attack Betty and to buy enough time to remove the spikes. Each attack he practices leaves him open to a counter, but he devises a plan. He enters a store and buys a pound of nuts,
That's a lot of nuts!
using them to beckon a squirrel. When the fight
Yeah.
starts, Betty's henchman starts to play music, but Chosen changes it to Black Betty.
Huh?
They
Oh.
engage in combat,
Oh, Black Betty.
where Chosen seems to be winning.
Doggy hump.
But the evil council fly in giant pyramids and begin playing
Yep.
French music, empowering Betty. After Betty beats Chosen down, Chosen has visions of encouragement from Woe and Mushu Fasa. Kungi grows to incredible length and latches onto a pyramid, spinning the ship back into space, and the remaining ships flee.
Come on.
Chosen leaps
What
from
the
the ground
fuck?
and grabs hold of Betty's spikes, getting palmed away but ripping them from his body. Betty stumbles to the ground, dying. Chosen gets to his feet and takes out a squirrel, paying the squirrel with a hand-sized cavity of nuts for protecting him from the blow. Ling runs into the
Bro.
courtyard, flashes Chosen, and hugs him. And the movie ends. Kung Pao is a 2002 comedy parody of Hong Kong cinema. Written, directed by and starring Steve Odekirk, it uses footage from 1976 film The Savage Killers, along with some original footage. Odekirk does the dub for every character in the film.
No, no.
Up and over! He just left! With nuts!
Except Jennifer Tung, who dubbed herself.
It is not yet your time.
The original script was nonsensical. For example, when Chosen says,
Dude.
Isn't Betty a woman's name?
his lips read, "Isn't Robert a family game?" Odekirk says he specifically chose this film as the source material to parody due to the Iron Ball scene. And he is also responsible for the many thumb parodies done through the years.
Eeny, meeny.
Miny mo.
I wonder where my glove will go.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.
Bro. Dude, the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I wonder where my glove will go. That's a good line. That's a great line. Great line. Great line. Great line. Listen, boys. Listen, boys. I am kind of tired, but we can't fall asleep right now. Oh, blah, 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 oh, blah, 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 blah. Let's find a quick Ewu video. Ewu, explore with us. A quick one. And then I can go sleep. Quick one. Because, yeah, tomorrow we're going to be early stream. But today, haven't slept that much. That's why I don't have that much energy. 27 minutes. World's youngest serial killers. Jesus Christ. We found a secret hideout. All we found was shocking. Oh, that's the fucking, is that kid? Is that kid? Which one do we want to watch, boys? We'll watch the world's youngest serial killers. Really? Serial killer?
What is up, Ewu crew? Today,
What up?
we are
What
going
up,
to be
Ewu?
covering 3 stories of a few of the world's youngest serial killers. Buckle up,
They're gonna be what,
because
14?
these shockingly
13?
true stories are bound
12
to give
minimum.
you nightmares.
12 minimum.
If you enjoy true crime, mysteries, and true stories, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe.
12 minimum, dude. There's
Now,
no way
get
anybody
into it.
under 12 is killing people.
The first case we will be covering in today's
17.
video is that of Harvey
That's the world's oldest fucking 17-year-old, dude. Are you kidding me? That guy looks more like a man than me. What the fuck? This guy looks 32, dog.
Miguel Robinson. Harvey was born on December 6, 1974, in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
The fuck?
His father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic
That's
who was
32-year-old, bro. Don't
constantly
lie to me.
quick to anger, especially within the walls of his own home.
I'm sorry, beat the kid.
Mr. Robinson's physical and verbal assaults on
kid.
his wife eventually led Mrs. Robinson to leave both him and Harvey behind in search of her own safety.
No.
As he was left alone with his father, Harvey had
Oh,
a
yeah, he beat
remarkably
him
rough
every
childhood.
single day, didn't he?
Throughout the course of his early life and adolescence, the constant maltreatment that Harvey faced at his father's hand resulted in Harvey developing anger issues of his own. With so much violence and pent-up hatred in his life, it was evident by the time Harvey was 17 years old
That he was
that
a psycho.
something about him appeared to be inherently off.
He's a psychopath.
Perhaps if the people in Harvey's life had paid a bit more attention to his strange and malicious tendencies as a boy, someone could have prevented the shocking events that would later come. In August of 1992, the violence in Harvey's life reached a limit. In fact, it overflowed. When 29-year-old Joan Burghardt got home from a long shift as a nurse's aide in East Allentown, she was relieved beyond belief to finally relax in bed. Joan was an aspiring nurse who had studied at Lehigh County Community College.
Why would she be relieved beyond belief if she just arrived? She's a nurse. Like, relieved beyond belief is what I would feel if my daughter was kidnapped and then we found her and nothing happened to her. I would be relieved beyond belief, right? Right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, that's for one of those circumstances. I don't think you can feel that amount of relief. You just came home, dog, from a normal job. The fuck are you talking about?
In the years leading up to
The fuck are you talking about?
1992, as a recent graduate, she had begun new hobbies that involved joining a local art museum and a hiking club to take up her spare time outside of work. Exhausted from the day's events, Joan found that she could barely keep her eyes open once she was in bed. In fact, she was able to bypass her usual insomnia completely and slip into a peaceful sleep within moments. Unfortunately for Joan, she had no idea what kind of monsters were lurking around in the darkness of the night she believed to be so peaceful.
Oh no.
As she slept, Joan was entirely unaware that she had unwelcome company in her home. None other than 17-year-old Harvey Robinson had managed to silently
That's not a
break into
17-year-old
Joan's
man.
house, and before she was even aware of his presence, Harvey was already inside her bedroom. Harvey assaulted Joan, and then proceeded to quite literally bludgeon her to death.
Oh my god.
Just like that, Harvey became a violent murderer, and his killing spree had just begun. In the weeks following after Joan Burghardt's murder, local officials were able to swiftly track down Harvey. They found evidence that he had broken into Joan's home in the weeks prior to killing her. Despite knowing that Harvey was guilty of burglarizing Joan's home before her death, the investigators had no reason to believe that his burglary was associated with the murder. But in fact, he had been stalking Joan before he struck. Though Harvey was arrested for the burglary, he only ended up going to prison for a total of 8 months.
What?
He only before he struck.
What?
But in fact, he had been stalking Joan before he struck. Though Harvey was arrested for the burglary, he only ended up going to prison for a total of 8 months.
Oh, he stole from her.
Those 8 months served as a buffer that prevented Harvey from continuing his killing spree.
No. Okay, they got him. Okay, wait, what? He assaulted her, but they only got him for stealing from her? But they have DNA. What? This makes no sense. This makes no sense. They got him. Okay, so he stole from the woman, then he killed her. And they gave him 8 months for stealing. The fuck? They didn't think he killed her. They had no DNA, no nothing. What the fuck?
But then,
What the
he got
fuck?
out. In June of 1993,
What the
Harvey
fuck?
found himself once again looking to continue what he had just started. On a clear June morning, just like any other,
How?
15
How do you know that somebody stole from somebody but didn't murder them? How? Can somebody explain? Did he have an alibi? He must have had an alibi, right? He must have had an alibi because they must have like said, hey, like what the fuck? He must have had a fucking alibi. Nah, bro, that's just weird. That's weird.
18-year-old Charlotte Schmoyer was on her daily newspaper.
They
read
let
for
him
the
out,
morning
dude.
call
They let this
when her
motherfucker
path
out.
collided with Harvey. Harvey convinced Charlotte to come with him and successfully.
His real
evicted
name
her.
now is Harvey
After
Weinstein.
taking her to a nearby wooded area, Harvey assaulted Charlotte before ultimately stabbing her over 20 times until she drew her last breath. Later that afternoon, one of Charlotte's regular customers noted that they had seen Charlotte's car parked outside their house, but had not seen her at all. Knowing that Charlotte would never willingly leave her vehicle unattended, they decided to call into Charlotte's workplace to report their concern.
Yeah, that she's not here.
The morning call also felt that something was wrong with Charlotte because they hadn't heard from her either. And so they contacted the local law enforcement to report that the 15-year-old appeared to be missing.
Good people.
Just hours later,
See something,
Charlotte's
say
body
something.
was found near where she had been abducted. Almost immediately following his brutal murder of Charlotte Schmoyer, Harvey was actually pulled over by a police officer. Nervous to face the consequences of his actions,
He ran.
Harvey accepted that he had been caught and anticipated his arrest. However, the officer simply handed Harvey a speeding ticket and let him go on his way.
Dude, it's like the universe is trolling.
Having once again got away with murder, Harvey
Oh, he must have felt
unstoppable,
invincible. Yeah, he
and
must
he
have felt
refused to quit
invincible.
while he was ahead. In July of 1993, just
Invincible.
1 month after murdering Charlotte, Harvey struck once more. While her
Of course he
entire
would.
family
Why wouldn't
slept
he?
safe and sound
Of course he would.
in
Why
the
wouldn't
comfort
he?
of their shared
Why wouldn't he, bro? He fucking assaulted and murdered a woman, bludgeoned her to fucking death. And then they Dude, he stole from a woman. Then weeks after, like, stalked her, assaulted her, killed her, bludgeoned her to death. And the cop said, no, it's okay. You only stole from her. Somebody else killed her. We don't know who killed her, but you stole from her. So you're going to jail for 8 months. He gets let out. Fucking stabs a girl 20 times. Gets stopped. Go on your way, sir. My God, this guy got away with it twice.
37-year-old Jessica Jean Fortney found herself face to face with a young serial killer. Harvey Robinson mercilessly attacked Jessica in her own home, forcefully assaulted
All
her
women, huh?
and beat her
All
to
women.
death. Harvey even left her body for her family to eventually find in the morning.
Oh my God.
While investigators searched for the killers responsible for Joan, Charlotte, and Jessica's murders, they had no idea that they were looking for just one man responsible for all of the heinous crimes.
Jeez.
And yet, Harvey was far from satisfied with his crime spree. Over the course of nearly a week, Harvey stalked
All
a
he did was
5-year-old
kill
girl
women.
who he had
No!
intended to take as his next victim.
No.
When Harvey finally determined that he had found the
Please
proper
tell me
time
they
to
caught him.
strike,
Please tell me they caught him.
he
Please tell me they
broke
caught
into
him.
the girl's family
Please tell me they
home
caught him. Please
and
tell me.
attacked her.
The father was there, please.
Harvey brutally assaulted the child in the same way he had with all of his previous victims. This time, he decided to choke the young girl to death. Or rather, he had intended to do so.
Oh, she didn't die.
The child fell unconscious,
She didn't die.
and Harvey believed that she was dead. So, just like Jean Fortney, he left her limp body to be discovered by her family. By some miracle, the girl actually managed to survive the horrific attack, and when her parents found her, she proceeded to tell them exactly what
he looked
occurred.
like. What he looked like.
Just
Yes.
weeks later, Harvey broke into the home of another woman by the name of Denise Samcali. Harvey attempted to assault Denise, but was unsuccessful as she fought back and was able to break free from his grasp. Having escaped Harvey's hold on her, Denise ran outside, only to find that Harvey was still on her heels.
Oh my God.
He once again tried to subdue her, but Denise refused to go down without a fight.
Younger serial
And
killer, young.
eventually, Harvey gave up and fled the scene.
Beta! What a fucking pussy.
After reporting the attack to local authorities,
Dude, imagine being a serial killer and you lose to a 5-year-old girl. What a fucking idiot. Dude, what a fucking retard. Holy shit. Holy shit. Not even, bro, he's not even good at being a serial killer. What a fucking useless piece of trash.
Denise actively worked
Bro, the only thing that you do and you're not even good at it. Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
with the police to assist them in their
Get fucked.
investigation,
Piece of shit.
assuming that Harvey would come back to finish what he had
And
started.
then he loses to a
Police
40-year-old
used
woman.
Denise as bait to trap Harvey and catch him red-handed. And fortunately, it
Fell for it?
worked like a charm. After she had gotten away, Harvey had started stalking Denise,
Oh
waiting
my
to
god,
finish
what an
off his
idiot.
attack.
Oh, he's an idiot.
Just days after he first tried to assault and kill her,
But I don't know
police
why.
watched as Harvey once again approached Denise's home. Swiftly, officers attempted to arrest him,
Like,
but Harvey had come to Denise's house armed, and he pulled a gun on the police officers and abruptly opened fire.
okay, but I don't, like, why go for her, bro? You seem to just be going for random women. Like, he went for a 27-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 40-year-old. It just seems like you just hate women and you want to kill women. So why would you go back for that same one? Just pick another one. No? No? If you only care, right, that they're women, why does it have to be her specifically? It makes no sense to me.
On them. Police responded
You
with
don't?
gunfire of their own, which wounded Harvey,
Bro, tell me they
but
didn't
not
kill him.
enough
Yes,
to
they
stop him
didn't
from
kill him.
escaping.
What?
Fortunately, Harvey ended up needing significant medical attention as a result of his wounds.
Beautiful.
He ended up checking himself into a nearby hospital where officers were
Yeah,
able to
they were,
locate
of
him
course.
just hours later.
Of course they
At
were.
Harvey's trial, the prosecution was able to connect Harvey to his 3 murders and 2 attempted murders by presenting matching DNA that had been
What a
collected at
terrible
each of
serial
the crime
killer, dude.
scenes.
What a terrible serial
At
killer.
Harvey Robinson's trial, District Attorney James B.
Dude, you're a 17-year-old guy. 17-year-old guy. You're a serial killer. You're one of the most dangerous beings out there. You're basically a monster. You're basically a monster is what you are. And then you lose against a 5-year-old girl, and then you lose against a 40-year-old woman twice. Bro, you're batting 500. You fucking suck.
Martin noted,
Holy
quote,
fuck.
"These
Holy
were horrific
fuck,
killings,
what a fucking
and I just
imbecile.
thought the death
What
penalty
an
was
imbecile.
appropriate under the
Yes,
circumstances.
I agree. Yes.
I still think
Yep.
it's appropriate."
Yep. Hang his
Harvey
ass.
Robinson
Yes.
was ultimately sentenced to death
Yeah.
and received 2 additional life sentences for
Yeah.
the assaults and serial murders
Yeah.
he committed
Deserved.
at the age of 17.
Deserved.
As of 2021,
Hyper
Harvey is
deserved.
46 years old and is still imprisoned on death row.
See, I don't understand how
Today,
death row
he
works.
is one of the youngest serial killers in American history. His crimes
Hey.
were later used as an inspiration for a character featured in the show Criminal Minds.
How does that work? Right? Because they give
The
you
next
like
case-
they give you 2 life sentences. Do you have to do your 2 life sentences and then they kill you? Is that how that works? Right? Or like how does it work? Why do they wait 20 years in jail? They want you to do the 20 years and then they kill you? Is that what? Is that how that works? Because I would have thought if you sentence somebody to death, you killed them. Boom. Right? Like you killed them within the month, 2 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But why do you like? And also, I used to hear people say shit like, no, the death penalty is like cheaper than prison because then you just like kill them. So the injection costs this, medics cost this, that, the other. But it seems like the death penalty is just more expensive because they basically do the whole jail time and then you kill them off. Yeah.
We have for you
I don't know how that
today is
works.
that of
I'd like to know.
15-year-old James Fairweather.
I know some
James Fairweather
places
was born
allow
on
it,
August
some
5th,
don't.
1998,
I'd like to know how
in
it works, though.
Colchester, Essex. His parents, Anita and James Sr., loved their son dearly and wanted to
Does my
ensure
mother
that their
know?
small little family would live a quaint and normal life. Growing
no
up,
fucking clue.
James was described by teachers as, quote, well-behaved and sensitive to the needs of others. Unfortunately, the quiet behavior that James had been known for
Yo,
would
why couldn't she
eventually
be my
end up
teacher when I was
taking a
young?
turn for the worse.
Oh, you motherfucker.
Corona viene de la palabra
Oh my
corona.
god, bro. No.
Throughout his academic career,
No.
James became a rather
Sex toys.
noteworthy bully, as he claimed that he had feared that he would be bullied himself. James would often get into trouble and ended up blaming anyone and everyone around
But
him
himself.
for his own bad behavior. Various reports from James's school demonstrated that other bullies often teased James for having larger ears, and many would even refer to him as Dumbo.
Dumbo.
But
Yeah,
the
of
bullying was only a piece of James's rather
course.
dark side.
course. Yeah, the whole.
Perhaps the most chilling part of James's childhood was the fact that he often claimed that his only career aspiration was that he wanted to become a murderer. He
Okay.
had
Okay. What do you do if your son says that or your daughter says that? What do you do? Like, honestly, what do you do? And your kids start being creepy. Is it too late? Is it too late, bro? Do you go outside and say, hey, I'm sorry, kid. bang, what do you do? Honestly, do you take them to therapy? Do you abandon them? What do you do? Military boot camp and send them to the army. So you make him a trained killer, and then when they get out, they come over and they kill you, and they kill a bunch of other people because you sent them to military camp. And they're gonna say, hey, I became a killer because you sent me to military camp. I wasn't gonna become a killer. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do, bro? What do you do?
Actually grown to have a rather disturbing obsession with serial killers, including the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe.
No.
When James's grandmother passed away, the building rage he constantly felt toward the world seemed to significantly amplify.
No.
Shortly after her passing,
Hold on,
James committed his first crime when he robbed a store at knife point. He was subsequently arrested and sentenced to 1 year of youth supervision. Unfortunately, small, semi-violent crimes were not enough to satisfy James Fairweather. When James was only 15 years old, he decided to push the limits on what he believed he was capable of doing. So, on March 29, 2014, he managed to sneak out of his parents' home. He had armed himself with gloves and was wielding a knife in search of anyone unfortunate enough to come across his path. Mere moments into his walk, James approached a 33-year-old man named James Atfield, who had been asleep at the moment James spotted him.
I've heard about
spent
this.
the evening drinking with his friends and had overdone it, which led to him inevitably passing out in a field in Colchester's Castle Park.
Dude, he was killed in a
James
field?
realized that Atfield was unconscious, he decided to make Atfield his first victim. With the knife he had brought with him, James stabbed Atfield in the abdomen, head,
Well, what else
and
would I
face.
do? I don't know.
According to the later autopsy, James had stabbed him a staggering 102 times. Then, believing that he heard someone coming, James fled from the scene and ran straight home.
Yeah, it's that one. I think I've heard of this one.
Home around 2:30 in the morning, Atfield's body was not discovered until over 3 hours later. When authorities found Atfield, they quickly rushed him to a nearby emergency room, but he was pronounced dead at 6:31 a.m.
He was super dead by then.
Atfield was a father of 5 children and had lived with permanent brain damage after a car accident he had been in years prior to his murder.
Oh, come on.
According to his autopsy,
dog.
Atfield had a variety of defensive wounds on his arms and hands, leading investigators
So he
to believe
woke up
that he had
after
been
the first
conscious
stabbing.
enough to try to fight James off during the attack. As part of the investigation into Atfield's death, James was actually interviewed by police as a suspect, but he had a solid alibi.
How did they find
saying
James?
that he had been home at the time.
How?
And as no one could say otherwise, all suspicion moved on.
Wait,
Just like that,
How did they grab him?
James Fairweather got away with his first murder at the age of 15. Just months later, on June 17, 2014, James once again found himself looking to take another life.
2014, that's
This time,
8 years ago.
James was far bolder in his attack. This time, he decided to strike in broad daylight. As a 31-year-old college student, Nahid Almania was walking to her university at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I think I've heard of
She
this
had
guy.
no idea what kind of dangers were lurking nearby. James managed to sneak up behind Nahid and stab her in the back with a bayonet knife before spinning her around and knocking the sunglasses off of her face. Then James stabbed both of her eyes until she fell to the ground and obtained a massive skull fracture. James stabbed her an additional 9 times, fracturing Nahid's rib before he fled the scene.
Oh my fucking god.
After 2 disturbing murders, Essex police were on high alert and ended up questioning around 70 local residents
What the
who had
fuck,
been known
bro?
to have a history of knife-related crimes.
Dude, the eye thing is so incredibly fucking creepy for me. I don't know why. The stabbing of the eyes is just...
Once again,
What?
including James himself. But he again had an alibi.
Why do they grab him though? Why are they grabbing him? Why are they grabbing him? Oh, cause he fucking robbed the guy at knife point, right? But robbing is different to murdering somebody with a knife. Am I wrong?
And he was not questioned any further. By January of the following year, Essex police had located and interviewed more than 900 potential witnesses to both Atfield and Naheed's murders. Perhaps the most confusing aspect of the two killings was that Atfield and Naheed had been two complete strangers
Yeah, they had nothing,
with no
nothing in common.
connection to each other. Considering the fact that they had both been killed at different times of the day,
They didn't even think it was...
investigators had first assumed that
Yeah,
there could have
it's
been
extremely
two
satanic.
separate individuals
Yeah, two separate
responsible
people.
for their deaths. Eventually,
Yeah.
however, it was determined that, though both victims were selected randomly, Atfield and Naheed were killed by the same person.
Why?
James did not attempt another murder for well over a year after he had killed Naheed, because the local police and residents
they
were
were.
on high alert. In fact, the community even went so far as to remove brush and bushes from local parks and areas where the victims had been selected. On May 27, 2015, James was seen
Kill the
loitering
family.
around bushes early in the morning
Oh!
in a manner that raised suspicion in the local dog walker who had spotted him. As a result, the woman called the police
yeah,
right
go
away,
get his ass. Yeah,
leading
get his
officers to take James
ass. Yeah,
in
get
for
his
an
ass.
interview.
Yeah, no, not
At
an
the
interview,
time
bro.
police located him,
Nah.
he had been wearing rubber gloves and had a knife on him.
My dude
He was
is
immediately arrested
Nah.
and taken in for questioning regarding his potential roles in the recent Colchester stabbings.
You're fucked, bro.
When authorities looked closer
They're gonna
into
let him
James's
go?
background,
Please tell me they don't let him go.
they found that he had been completely obsessed with documentaries about serial killers,
Please tell me
and
they
had
don't let
even
him
told
go.
his psychiatrist that, quote,
Please don't let him
voices were telling him to burn babies and
Please don't let
maim
him go.
prostitutes.
go. Please don't let him go.
His psychiatrist later said that
Please
she
don't let him go.
believed that the documentaries he watched and violent video games he played could have desensitized him to
Come
the
on,
idea
dog.
of murder. In the following interrogation, executed by Essex police, James recounts the night he murdered Atfield, asserting that the voices in his head ordered him to do it.
Because my voices were talking to me. You need to make a sacrifice, or we're going to come and get you. You need to do it. And I saw him. It was laying on the grass, like that. It was like that. Just fast asleep, where he was drunk. Then he goes, he's the one. Do it. So I went up to him. Can I stand up? No.
Yes.
Went up to him.
Stood over like that and went...
Like that. Not helping that. So I stabbed him first there. And I've done it a few times. While I was doing that, my voices were laughing louder and louder.
After his arrest, James's name was not disclosed to the public, as he
Bro, he looks like he's about to fucking cry, you know? Look at him. Look at him. He looks like he's about to fucking cry, the sensitive bitch. Go fuck yourself,
was a
bro.
minor at the time of his crimes, but he nonetheless went to trial denying the two charges of murder and possession of an illegal weapon. Instead, James admitted to 2 counts of manslaughter, but also asserted that he had psychosis.
How the fuck
His
is that
psychosis
manslaughter,
was not
bro?
confirmed by the court's psychiatrist.
How's that
Though all
manslaughter?
4 psychiatrists who
Manslaughter
looked into
is
James's mental state
by
agreed
accident.
that James had an
That's
autistic
not-
spectrum disorder.
That's not
James was
manslaughter,
found
bro.
unanimously guilty on April 22nd, 2016.
That's like second-degree
and was
murder.
sentenced to life imprisonment
premeditated,
with a minimum
yeah.
of 27 years for the atrocious murders he had committed.
Yeah, go fuck yourself,
One of
yeah.
Essex's youngest killers remains imprisoned and is now 22 years old.
Cat G!
Finally, the last case we have for you may be
Hey,
one of the
somebody,
most shocking cases
you got to
of
choose the
child
song, the
killers
outro
the
song.
world
What the?
has ever seen. The story of Craig
13.
Price. Craig Price was
Oh,
born
God.
and raised in the Buttonwoods neighborhoods of Warwick, Rhode
Single
Island,
mom. Tell
in
me,
a
single
small
mom.
working-class family.
Don't tell me
As a
single mom.
teenager, Craig was often described as, quote, a hulking teenage football player with a baby face and a winsome smile who lived with his parents in a small ranch house in the
Are you
Buttonwoods.
kidding me?
Though most serial killer
When I became a
cases
serial
include
killer?
some level of trauma paired with
No
heightened
trauma.
mental
Are
issues,
you kidding me?
there was nothing particularly significant about Craig's childhood that would ultimately
so gay.
influence his later actions. Perhaps that is what makes Craig's behavior all the more chilling. In July of 1987,
Oh, look, it
when
moved to
Craig was
80.
only
Look, it moved to
13
80.
years old, something inside of him appeared to have shifted dramatically. On the night of July 27th, Craig set out to do something he had never done before.
Kill a
He
person.
wanted to kill. With a rather basic plan created and a victim selected, Craig set out in the middle of the night, intent to break into the home of one of his neighbors, who lived just 2 doors down from his
Oh,
own
dog,
house.
come on.
After letting himself
Bro,
into
you
the
ever
home
had...
with ease,
Bro.
Craig quickly went
Bro, you ever heard of don't shit what you eat? Right? You ever heard of that? Or don't piss what you eat? You know what I mean?
into the kitchen
Come
and
on,
armed himself
dog.
with a single knife from the homeowner's kitchen set. Then he snuck into the bedroom of 27-year-old Rebecca Spencer,
Oh,
where
she's
she
a
slept.
mom, man. She's
Sealing
a
his
mom.
fate, and Rebecca's, Craig proceeded to stab the young woman 58 times until she drew her last breath. Craig swiftly vacated the premises and snuck back into his own home, virtually undetected.
Dude.
Even with his lack of life experience and status as a 13-year-old boy, Craig managed to thoroughly clean himself and ensure that there would be no evidence left
No, I don't
behind
watch these
that
off
could
stream.
potentially connect him to Rebecca's murder. The
I don't
initial
watch on stream.
investigations into Rebecca's death went cold in the months following the attack.
I don't think
In
watching
fact,
too
it
many
was
of these is
completely
good for your
unsolved
mental,
for 2
bro.
whole
I don't think
years,
it does good to
and
your
Craig
mental, you know?
managed to fly under the radar and avoid any and all suspicion. Thrilled by the feeling of success, Craig was satisfied with his first
Minnie,
murder.
you worried that I
and
got too much
though he
thing was
was
gonna give you a
determined to
midget,
kill
son?
again,
No, I'm 5'10".
he found it
I'm not gonna
best
get a
to
midget,
wait
son.
before striking again. So,
I
2
wanna be
years
rich, I
later,
wanna be able to
when
feed
Craig
my
was
kid.
just
I'm gonna be able to
15
feed
years
my kid.
old and a freshman in high school, he decided to test his
But
luck
no, I don't think...
once more.
Look.
Or-
I don't think this... Damn, I thought you were taller. Way taller? Nah, bro, I'm not fucking... No, I'm 5'10". I'm not 6'3" or anything like that. I mean, I look big next to this thing, right? But, dude, I don't think watching these things, okay, is what you should be doing in your off time the whole day. You know, that's why I drop a little keck or a little W right here, right there. Because, man, these fucking videos, they give you a certain type of energy, okay, that I don't think maybe you should have, you know? They give you a certain... Listen, last time I watched a bunch of these videos, okay, and then I went onto a show. I told the guy I was gonna eat him. That's what I said. I said, I'm gonna cook you. I'm gonna cook you. I'm gonna eat you like my... I didn't say I'm gonna eat you, okay? But I did say, listen, my ancestors, okay, maybe they partook in a little bit of cannibalism. Just a little bit. You know? Just a little bit of cannibalism. You see? But and it doesn't put you in a good mental state, dude. Okay? And then also, look, I think a little bit of watching these things is good because you realize, like, dude, there's monsters out there in the world, and you can't, like, you know, you can't just assume that, oh yeah, I'll talk somebody out of it. No, there are some people that you can't talk out of anything. You just gotta be careful, right? You gotta look for the signs. You know what I mean? And so it's good for that. It's good for that. But too much of it puts you in a mental state where, oh my god, there's murderers everywhere. And they're super, like, hyper rare, but you should be aware that they exist, you see? So you should care that they exist, but you shouldn't obsess over it, you know? So it's a balance. It's a balance. It's a balance. So.
Or rather, 3 times more. On September 1st, 1989, Craig was high on both marijuana and LSD and itching for a thrill. So he stuck to what he was familiar with
Bro, and they say
and
marijuana
set
isn't,
out into his neighborhood
dangerous.
in search of a home to infiltrate
Yeah, no,
in
it
the same
is.
fashion that he had previously done to Rebecca's home. Having faced various racially charged situations in his youth, Craig decided it would only be appropriate to attack one of the white households in his neighborhood as a sort of revenge. Silently,
Bro.
Craig broke into the home of 39-year-old Joan Heaton, while she and her 2 daughters,
Always
Jennifer and Melissa,
women, bro.
were sound asleep. Stumbling upon
Always
Joan's
women,
room
bro.
first, Craig stabbed the single mother 57 times before leaving her to bleed out.
Oh
He then
my
found
god!
10-year-old Jennifer,
Eres
who he
el
stabbed
perro.
62 times until he was certain she was dead.
Oh,
Finally,
dude, come
he
on.
crushed the skull of 8-year-old Melissa before stabbing her a total of 30 times. Police noted that the stabbings had been so
Dude, and
incredibly
he's a
brutal
13-year-old.
that Craig had actually broken the handles off of the knives, leaving the blades inside the bodies of his victims. As the brutality of the
Bro.
murders was so significant, local law enforcement was quick to
can't,
associate
man.
the Heaton family murders with Rebecca's earlier murder. In response to the killings, the FBI was called in to profile what everyone assumed to be a cunning serial killer. What they
And it was
failed
a
to consider
13-year-old,
was that the
dude.
serial killer on their hands was a 15-year-old
Was a kid.
boy.
A kid. That's a
In
kid,
fact,
dude. That's
the
a
only
kid.
reason that Craig
That's a
was even
fucking
caught
kid, bro. That's
was
a
that a
fucking kid.
particularly observant detective had noticed Craig in the neighborhood and realized that he had some noticeably deep cuts on his hands.
Oh.
Officials quickly took Craig in for questioning, where the boy openly and
He
proudly
cracked.
admitted
Yeah,
to
he
committing
cracked
the murders
immediately.
on his own accord. At the time of his
Why do they say that and then put a fucking guy doing the Giga Chad? He's like, Giga Chad. You know what I mean? Why do they say he did this and they give me a
quickly
Giga
took
Chad,
Craig
bro?
in
Look at
for
this, look at this, look at
questioning,
this, look at this.
where the
Look.
boy openly and proudly admitted to committing the
Look
murders
at that, come on,
his
though.
own accord.
Don't do
At the
that.
time of his official arrest, Craig was considered the youngest serial killer in the history
Ever.
of the United States. As a result of his intense crimes, Craig gained the nickname the Warwick Slasher and was considered a poor candidate for rehabilitation. At his trials, Craig was charged with the murder of Rebecca, Joan, Jennifer, and Melissa, and was incarcerated until his 21st birthday for his crimes.
Listen,
While imprisoned, Craig refused to stay out of trouble and was additionally charged with criminal contempt for refusing a psychological evaluation, extortion for threatening a corrections officer, and assault in violation of probation for fights while in prison.
but how?
As a result, he was sentenced
He
to
had
an
a good
additional
home.
10 to 25, which he is still in the process of serving at Florida State Prison.
Also,
Just like Harvey Robinson.
why were they gonna release him when he turned 21? I'm sorry. He killed a 6-year-old girl, no? And the knife was stuck in her body. Bro, you don't get to come out after that. No, you're unprovoked. Like, yeah. He got the best deal ever seen. Dude, he killed the whole family. He killed the whole family, left the knives in them. That's how much he stabbed them, and that's how hard he went. And they release him after 7 years. I mean, they were going to release him after 7 years. I'm sorry, what? How? He's not going to be rehabilitated. What do you think he's going to go back to doing? The fuck? Yo,
Craig
US,
Price's
get your
murders
criminal system
inspired
correct,
an
bro. What the fuck is that
unsub-character
dumb
on
bullshit?
Criminal Minds.
And then they gave him 25 extra years. But did he kill anybody in jail? Bro, they gave him more time for what he did in jail than for what he did outside of jail. And he murdered a family outside of jail. Bro, the US is broken. The US is actually retarded. US is actually retarded. Yeah, there's people who do more time for weed than 7 fucking years. This guy took lives. The fuck? The fuck?
As crazy as these 3 cases may be, they are not the only
fuck?
horrifying cases of the youngest serial killers in the world.
The fuck?
In fact, these cases are barely scratching the surface. Keep your eyes peeled for the second video.
How does
in
that
this
make
short series,
sense?
where we dive into the stories of 3 more.
Bro, how does it make sense that he hits a correctional officer or whatever and he gets 25 years? Motherfucker, what about the girls that he murdered? What about the fucking 5-year-old girls that he murdered? The 27-year-old woman that he murdered? The other woman that he murdered? Usually I'm like, yeah, that's pretty fair. The amount of time they give him, it makes sense. This one didn't make sense at all. Didn't make sense at all. Didn't make sense at all, dude. It wasn't a crime of passion. He was a serial killer. It wasn't like, oh yeah, he was bullying me, I got angry and I shot him. It wasn't anything like that. It was like, yeah, I'm a serial killer. That's what I am. Yep. Oh, 7 years? Okay. You killed 4 people and you get 2 years per fucking body. Are you joking? Are you joking? Are you taking the piss? 2 years, dude, per person. Jesus Christ. Usually it's like 20 years per person. Usually when they kill somebody, they get 20 years, 15 years, 25 years. This motherfucker he could have gotten 100 years. He got 8 years. How? How? How, dude? How? How? I was expecting a hanging. Yeah, he's a 13-year-old kid. And the girls were 5 years old. How the fuck is he gonna get 8 years only? Are you joking? Are you kidding me, bro? That's 100 years, dude. That's 100 years. It's 25 per body. That's 20 per body, bro. 15 per body. You're talking about like 50 years to 100 years to death penalty. That's what you're talking about. And they want to release him after 8 years. Okay, bro. Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ. Some of these, bro. Jesus. I'll watch this one and then I go to sleep. Oh, bro, I hate it when they do this shit, bro. They use this kid with cancer for money and shit. God damn, bro. God damn, bro.
What is up, Iwu crew? Criminal cases can often have surprising twists and turns. And today
Jesus
we are
Christ.
taking a look at a few cases that are particularly shocking.
We watch this one and
so strange that they may not seem real. But we
watch this one and then I'll get murdered in my sleep. How about that?
promise they are all true. The first case we have today is a mix of fact and fiction, and it is a story full
Why?
of bizarre twists.
What is that
In
fiction?
2003, on June 29th, two
Boys,
boys,
I'll be back. I gotta take a piss.
14-year-old John
I gotta take a
and
piss. Quickly,
16-year-old
quickly.
Mark, walked together through
Wait,
an
do I?
alleyway called Goose Green in the small town of
I'm
Altrincham.
checking if I need to take a piss.
Neither of those names are real, as both are aliases given to the boys to keep their true identities a secret. While passing
Yeah, I'm
through
gonna
Booth's
take this.
screen,
I'll be back.
John was attacked. He was viciously stabbed once in the stomach and another time in the chest. Around 20 minutes after the incident, Mark called for an ambulance, saying that a madman had attacked his friend.
Bro, imagine
Mark
if
described the
I
attacker
all of a
as
sudden
being
get
in his
attacked.
early 20s
Jesus.
and dressed in a black hoodie and black jeans. Soon people were on the lookout for a knife-wielding madman in the area. John was rushed to the Wythenshawe Hospital, where he had to have his gallbladder removed after one of the stab wounds had pierced both his kidney and liver. While being operated on, John almost died on 2 occasions. Blood built up in his chest and resulted in him requiring a respirator to breathe. But despite the odds, John survived the attack. The seemingly unprovoked stabbing shocked the public, as the area was known to be quiet and peaceful with a low crime rate, but the case would soon turn out to be even more shocking. Police quickly realized that Mark had been lying about the attacker. The area where he said the stabber ran off ended in a 40-foot drop, and after reviewing a closed-circuit camera, police never found evidence of anyone but the 2 boys entering the alleyway. Mark was arrested for attempted murder, and after giving the police multiple different stories, John would finally admit that his friend had been the one to stab him. John told the police, "Mark did it once, stood up, holding me, did it again. He was kneeling on me saying, 'Trust me,' holding the knife to my stomach." John says he screamed, "Call an ambulance, I'm dying." To which Mark responded, "Shush, people will hear, please be quiet."
Why
John
did his
says
friend
he then
protect
cried,
him?
"You've killed me." And Mark replied, "Don't say that. Don't let that be the last thing you are saying."
Why did his retarded friend protect him? What the fuck is going on, dog, with the world? My friend tries to kill me. Hey, it was him! It was him! I'm not gonna be like, nah, it wasn't him, bro. I didn't attack him. You know what, bro? Yeah, he did try to kill me several times, and I pleaded, and he said, hey, don't let that be the last thing you say, bro. Don't let them hear. What the fuck? Hello?
Mark's arrest, though a surprise, wasn't the end of this case. Another arrest was made 4 months after the stabbing, and this time John was also arrested, charged with inciting murder. The murder John had planned was his own. Months prior to the
I was
attack,
gonna say. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that's the only way it makes sense that he wants to fucking die, right? And he can't commit the act himself. I was gonna say that's the only way it makes sense. But then he chickened out like a pussy. Beta!
John had spent hours on chat forums crafting half a dozen different identities and building captivating stories around each. It was through these characters that he talked to Mark. Mark reportedly had no idea that all of the different people he spoke to through chat rooms were all actually John, using different names.
I will do some boxing streams. Yes, KG, I will.
Changing some of the ways each fake person spoke over the chats.
Oh, wow.
John had initially befriended Mark through his first fake character named Rachel West, who claimed that the real John was her brother. Through ongoing conversations, Mark developed a crush on the girl he only knew through chat rooms, and with her urging, became friends with her brother in real life. With the 6 chat room characters, John built a shocking world where Mark was dating Rachel, where there were kidnappers, murderers, and secret agents. And Mark was part of it all. Though the world was only discussed through chat rooms, Mark believed it and was wrapped up in a world that was part real, part fiction. All masterminded by John and his 6 characters.
Oh, he's an idiot.
John made sure to mention real people in Mark's life, bringing in an element of the real world to make his ruse all the more immersive and convincing. 16-year-old Mark was particularly gullible to be pulled in so easily
Oh, he
by
was
John's
autistic
lies.
or what?
But a judge commenting on the case chillingly remarked that skilled writers of fiction would struggle to conjure up a plot such as arises here. Mark endlessly communicated with John's characters, so much so that during the investigation, police had to go over 133 gigabytes of data, and
I don't know how
58,000
many.
lines of text were taken in as evidence for the case,
Oh
which
my
was only a small
god.
fraction of all the messages Mark exchanged
Oh my god.
with John's 6 personas.
Oh my god.
John
58,000.
later shared that fooling his friend so easily was, quote,
Bro.
like feeding a dog.
Dude.
It is reported that John worked tirelessly on
You know
fueling
what? You know what? I no longer blame the guy for trying to fucking kill us.
this dark fabrication, often nurturing
Dude,
his
I
made-up
can't
world
blame him
from 4
anymore.
p.m.
What do you want me to
to
do?
7 in the morning, later explaining, I'd stopped eating in March, just wanted to be on the internet. That's all that mattered.
Bro, I can't blame him
It was
anymore.
through John's persona,
Hold on, boys.
a
I'll be
British
back.
agent named
Gonna get a-
Janet Dobinson.
Yeah,
that
listen.
he conv-
Hey, listen, bro. Hey, be careful what you wish for, dude. Your parents tell you this when you're a young kid. Be careful what you wish for. This guy wished it into happening, bro. He mind controlled the guy into
to
making
kill
it.
him.
I'll be right back,
This
boys.
character told Mark
I
that
got
everyone
a
around
John.
him was a
I got a
possible
John.
secret agent working
Come on.
for the British government, and that he had been selected to possibly join their ranks. He only had to prove himself worthy. The best way to do this was to kill John. Janet told Mark the implausible and far-fetched story that John was dying from a terminal brain tumor, but that the British Secret Service needed him dead earlier because he was worth £568 billion, which he kept in a huge, massive safe containing the world's richest jewels. John had to die in order to keep all of the treasure safe, and Mark was quickly convinced, though he had to be reassured by the secret agent that it wasn't murder for him to kill John. You want me to kill him? That's what you're asking me, Mark wrote to Janet over their chat. And just leave him to die? What should I say to him? Stand there a minute while I stab you? You love him, John responded as Janet in the chat, masterminding his own death and telling his friend to be the one to do it. It didn't take much convincing beyond that, and when it came to the day of the incident, Mark said to John,
Bro,
I love you, bro, just before stabbing him twice.
bro, he listened to the snow bunny fucking demon. What a retard. Hold on, I gotta listen. I went out for a second. I got lost in the sauce. Give me a second. Give me a
Wasn't
second.
murder safe.
He fucking
containing
told
the
him to kill himself.
Janet
Hold on,
told
boys.
Mark the implausible and far-fetched story that John was dying from a terminal brain tumor, but that the British Secret Service needed him dead earlier because he was worth £568 billion, which he kept in a huge, massive safe containing the world's richest jewels.
Oh, he's
John
a
had to
retard.
die
Oh, he's a
in order to
retard.
keep all of the treasure safe,
Oh,
and
he's
Mark
a
was
retard,
quickly
bro.
convinced.
Oh, Mark
though
is
he
a
had to be
retard, bro.
reassured by the secret agent
Mark is a
that it
retard,
wasn't
bro.
murder for him to kill John.
Oh my god, bro, he's a retard.
You want me to kill him?
560
That's what
billion?
you're Mark wrote to Janet over their chat. And just leave him to die.
No, bro, no.
What should
no,
I say to him? Stand there a minute while I
No.
stab you? You love him, John responded as Janet in the chat,
No.
masterminding his own death and telling his friend to be the one to do it. It didn't take much convincing beyond that, and when
Bruh.
it came to the day of the incident, Mark said to John, I love you, bro, just before stabbing him twice. John was an isolated and depressed teen in desperate need of attention.
Bro,
He
what
felt
the
trapped by
fuck?
the internet world he had created and couldn't imagine any other way to escape. Some investigators concluded that John had chosen to plan his own murder and
Yep.
cast Mark as his killer out of fear and a desperation to take his own life,
Jesus Christ.
while others see him only as downright wicked and evil for manipulating another person so successfully. It is also
He's a
believed
fucking
that
retard
John
is what he
targeted
is.
Mark for his deception because he was attracted to him and believed that he was out of his league.
Yeah, he wanted to fuck him.
Initially, John had used the fake person Rachel as a way to talk to Mark,
Riz him up.
but everything spiraled out of control from there.
He wanted to riz him up.
Though the case itself is so strange it doesn't seem real, there is one more bizarre aspect. Over the chats, Mark had seemed convinced by the supposed secret agent Janet that he would be released for killing John.
Oh my god.
Yet when he was brought
Oh my
in
God,
for the
bro.
crime, he never once asked for her, nor told anyone about the government conspiracy that had convinced him to kill his friend,
Oh my god, dude.
even though he should have believed it would free him.
He might have known.
Instead, when he confessed to the
He
stabbing,
might have known.
he told police that he heard voices telling him to do it, leaving many to wonder just how much of the fantasy that John created did Mark actually believe.
He might have been a
Even
schizo
John
too, bro.
thinks that Mark knew the characters weren't real.
Yeah.
This conclusion brings some credence to the theory that both wanted to end the
Yeah.
lies between them, and Mark was willing to kill John to make it stop. Both boys pleaded guilty to their charges, and John is likely one of the first people in the world to be convicted of inciting their
His own fucking murder.
This next case is no
Actual
less
fucking
dramatic than the
schizos,
blue-screen
dude.
stabbing, but has even more dire consequences.
Well, look, at least he didn't die,
Living
right?
in
Like,
Fayetteville, North
Jesus
Carolina
Christ.
in 1985,
Bro,
the
at
Eastburns were a
least the
military
fucking two
family.
retards didn't die.
Captain Gary Eastburn was part of the Air Force and had moved his family to Pope Air Force Base
Jesus Christ,
so
man.
that he could work as the chief of air traffic control. Gary's wife, Katie, was more than happy to move where her husband needed
I
to go.
hear a very deep voice, bro, talking about murder in my head. I don't know. And I see some chatters, but I don't know if it's fucking real.
And happily brought along the couple's 3 children, 5-year-old Kara, 3-year-old Aaron, and 22-month-old Jana. In May 1985, the family decided they needed a change, and that they would relocate to England so that Gary could work as a liaison with the Royal Air Force. Gary was away in Montgomery, Alabama for training at a
Military dad,
squadron's
military dad.
officer school during much of the packing and planning for the move. And so Katie took over most of the responsibilities. She realized that the family wouldn't be able to take their English setter Dixie with them for the trip, so she posted an ad in the local paper.
Oh
for
no, the
someone to
babysitter's
come
gonna
take
kill him.
Dixie. On May 7th, 27-year-old Army Sergeant Timothy Hennis called about the ad and came to visit the Eastburn house to
Wait,
see
who's
Dixie.
Dixie? Who's Dixie?
Timothy
Wait, who's Dixie? The 22-year-old, 22 born, 22 month?
had and take their response packing in Alabama for training at a squadron's officer school during much of the packing and planning for the move.
Who's Dixie?
And so Katie took over most of the responsibilities.
Did she give away
She
her fucking
realized
kid?
that the family wouldn't be able to take their English setter Dixie with them for the trip.
What the fuck is English setter, bro? What is that? Is that a dog? Is that a dog? The fuck
So
is
she
that?
posted an ad in the local paper for someone to come take Dixie.
That's a dog.
On
right?
May 7th, 27-year-old Army Sergeant Timothy Hennis called about the ad and came to visit the Eastburn house to see Dixie. Timothy said that he and his wife owned a Spitz, and that with their newborn daughter, it was the perfect time to add another dog to his family. And so he took Dixie with him.
It's a dog, yeah.
On May 11th, Gary became concerned when Katie didn't answer any of his calls, but concluded that she must have been busy with the move and their
Oh,
kids.
she was murdered.
However, the Eastburns' neighbor was also worried and soon called the police when he hadn't seen the family in a while.
On June 27th, 2002, I took my first steps towards a WWE ring.
Who in the hell are you?
A chance to prove I belong in the WWE universe.
I'm John Cena. Woo! I'm Mini Motherfucker Number.
And I failed. But in that failure, and over a 20-year career, I've dedicated my entire life's work to 3 words.
W.
Give
Oh, never mind. WWE.
These superstars managed to defeat
Boom.
the highest levels on the biggest stages. So now when you step into their shoes, I'm looking to get those wins back. Are you strong enough to follow in their
The
footsteps?
comeback of John Cena.
Can you even see me?
My baby shut me down.
Woo! The goat. Oh! 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 I can be back on you. Boys,
Police
you gotta stop fucking subbing, bro. I gotta be better in that game. Hello?
found Katie's body inside the house next to the bed, along with those of her two oldest children.
Oh, fuck.
Death has a smell, its own aroma. I'll never forget the smell in there, one detective later said. Katie had been assaulted, stabbed 15 times, and her throat cut, while Kara was also stabbed, and Aaron bludgeoned in the chest and back. Jana was left unscathed by the attacker, but was severely dehydrated by the time she was found. It was determined that Katie and her daughters had been killed the night of May 9th and early morning of May 10th.
Oh, man.
Investigators found evidence of both fingerprints and hair,
Everything.
and this, along with the luminol test, revealed that the killer had poorly attempted to clean the crime scene. Devastated by the loss, Gary returned to his home in an effort to aid investigators. He determined that cash and Katie's ATM card had been stolen, along with a slip of paper where she had written her PIN number. Witnesses came forward to say that they had seen someone enter the Eastburn house the night Katie and her daughters were killed.
But it was a setup.
The person
watch.
was described as being a tall white man, wearing a knit cap and a...
Listen, it was a setup, bro. The husband set her up. 100%. Trust me. Trust me, bro. The husband's away. And listen, we're expecting a twist, right? We're expecting a twist. We haven't gotten a twist yet. The twist is that the husband was somehow implicated in this, which is satanic as fuck. Because those are your daughters, bro. Yeah, that's gonna be the twist. I predicted
black
it.
Jacket that had "Members Only" written on the back. He was seen driving from the house in a white Chevrolet.
I predicted it.
Katie's bank card was also used after her death to withdraw cash, and witnesses saw a man who matched the same description in the area where the money was taken out. Timothy Hennis was quickly identified as the prime suspect in the murder, as he fit witness descriptions, and one witness even picked him out of a lineup. Timothy said he had no contact with Katie beyond picking up the dog, and claimed that he was at his in-laws the night of the murder, except for a short period when he stopped to refuel his car while returning home. Despite this, he was interviewed and asked to give saliva, hair, and fingerprint samples. Timothy's alibi fell apart when his former girlfriend came forward and said that he had visited her house that night, and evidence was found that he brought his members-only jacket to the dry cleaners on May 10th. He was also seen burning things in a bin by his neighbors. Timothy was arrested and charged with all 3 deaths. During his trial, Timothy was offered a plea deal, which he turned down. He was then found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death.
Okay, but
while waiting on death row, Timothy received an unsigned letter saying, "Dear Mr. Hennis, I did the crime. I murdered the Eastburns. Sorry you're doing the time. I'll be safely out of North Carolina when you read this."
What the fuck?
The same letter was also sent to the local sheriff's office. Based on the new evidence, Timothy appealed his sentence, which he was granted in 1988, marking the first time someone on death row in North Carolina had been granted a retrial. Timothy's lawyers argued that because police used graphic photos of the crime scene as part of his interrogation, the images had undue influence on him and swayed anything he said while being questioned. The new trial tore into the witnesses who claimed to have seen Timothy on the night of the murders. For one witness, his testimony was brought into question because he had described the weather as fair that night, when in fact it had been overcast. As well, another witness was challenged as she had originally said she didn't see Timothy near the bank when Katie's card was used, but altered her statement right before the trial.
No, you retard!
The only evidence seen to prove Timothy's guilt was his members-only jacket,
Yeah.
but the defense proved that it had been tested and no traces of
No
blood
blood, no
were
nothing.
ever found.
Oh, wow.
In a shocking twist,
He's out.
Timothy went from waiting to be executed
Oh
for
my
the
God,
horrific
to being out.
crimes to being found not guilty of any of the charges.
Who was
After
it
the
then?
trial, Gary Eastburn took his only surviving daughter to England with him, where he eventually remarried. After his not guilty verdict, Timothy Hennis ended up re-enlisting in the Army and even was promoted to Staff Sergeant. He served in both Iraq and Somalia and was even part of Operation Desert Storm. When he retired from the Army, Timothy was a Master Sergeant. But the twists of this case do not end here.
The father. The father.
In
The father knew that the
2005,
other kids weren't
Captain
his
Larry
kids.
Trotter was at a detective seminar which used the Eastburn murders as a case study to discuss the importance of credible evidence, as it was still unsolved.
Oh, and he admitted it
While
in
there,
the army.
Trotter learned that DNA had been collected from a semen sample at the crime scene, but never tested because DNA technology was unreliable in the late 80s.
And it was him. It was him.
Trotter
It was him.
decided to have the DNA tested.
It was him.
And in 2006, it was shockingly determined that it was undoubtedly from Timothy Hennis.
Yeah.
Though Trotter appeared to have finally solved a decades-old case, there was one glaring problem: double jeopardy. The Fifth Amendment's double
Oh my
jeopardy
God,
clause states that because Timothy had been acquitted of the murders, he could not be retried for the same crime.
Oh my God, bro.
It appeared that Timothy was going to get away with a triple homicide.
Nah, they're gonna
and
get
there was
him.
nothing the police could do about it. However, in the next twist of this case, the Army decided to take things into their own hands.
W Army.
In September of 2006, Timothy was recalled back into military duty and moved to Fort Bragg. There he was court-martialed, as the Uniform Code of Military Justice allows for members of the military who have previously been tried in civilian court
Yes,
to
sir.
still be court-martialed.
Yes,
It
sir.
was the only way around the clause of double jeopardy to have Timothy tried for his crimes. Timothy attempted to appeal, as he believed that the Army didn't have the jurisdiction, but was denied.
Get fucked, bitch.
In fact, he attempted to appeal on 2 other occasions.
Get fucked, bitch.
At his court-martial trial in 2010, the DNA evidence was finally given, along with the previous witness statements. Though Timothy's defense tried to claim that any relationship that had resulted in his DNA being found on Katie's body had been the result of consent,
Oh,
he was
come
found
on.
unanimously guilty.
Yeah.
One detective would later emphasize, Tim Hennis is not a dumb man, and the fact that the man's score on an Army General Aptitude test had placed him in the 97th percentile shows that he was indeed clever, almost clever enough to get away with.
Who sent the letter? Hmm? Who sent the letter? Was it himself? Was it himself before the jail? Huh? Who sent the letter, and why do I think it was the husband? What up? What up?
Murder.
Detective
The same
Dumby on the
detective
case, bro.
also recalled Timothy's
Detective
biting
Dumby on
sense
the
of
case.
humor, explaining that after being charged with the crime, the man sneered at him. Looks like I'm going to get to wear one of those little orange jumpsuits. Detective Robert Biddle described his take on Timothy's sinister motivations, saying, "Why do people rob banks? They think that others didn't know how to do it right. That was Tim Hennis's attitude. You can't get me, I'm smarter than you are." From 2010 to 2020, Timothy has attempted multiple appeals and calls for a second trial, all of which have been dismissed. He is once again on death row. The last case we have for you today may be the most shocking of them all.
But who sent the
Carl Brandt
letter,
was
bro?
born in 1957 as the second child of 2 German immigrants living in Connecticut. Going by the nickname Charlie rather than Carl, his upbringing was typical and normal, though he was known to be shy. His family expanded to include 2 younger sisters and seemed to be utterly unextraordinary until Charlie was 13. During the night of January 3rd, 1971, Charlie retrieved his father's handgun from the drawer where everyone knew it was kept and proceeded to find his parents, where they were both in the bathroom. His father was shaving, while his mother, who was 8 months pregnant with Charlie's newest sibling, was taking a bath. Charlie shot both of his parents, instantly killing his mother and her unborn baby, and severely wounding his father. Charlie then sought out his older sister Angela, who he found in her bedroom. Though he attempted to shoot her too, the gun didn't fire because he had run out of bullets. Angela managed to fight Charlie off and ran outside, seeking help from the neighbors and to keep Charlie away from their 2 younger sisters who he hadn't harmed yet. Charlie chased after her, but when he came to the neighbor's house, he simply told them, "I just shot my mom and dad." When the police arrived, Angela described that her brother looked like he had been in a trance when he came into her room. It was determined that Charlie had been triggered to attempt to kill his entire family by a few factors, including pressure in school and the fact that days earlier his father had shot and killed their family dog in front of him while they were out hunting.
Oh, come on.
Though psychiatrists believed that mental illness also had to be a factor, they found no evidence of it in Charlie. Because he was only 13, Indiana law deemed he was too young to be tried for murder, and so after a brief 1 year at a psychiatric hospital, Charlie went back to his family, returned free to society. His younger sisters were never told that their brother had killed their mom, instead believing that she had died in a car accident, and no one spoke of what happened.
Oh my God.
It appeared that Charlie's murderous incident had been a one-off,
No.
and he went on to have a normal life,
No.
even earning a degree in electronics in 1984.
No.
He landed himself a job at Ford Aerospace as a radar specialist and got married to Terry Helfrich in 1986.
And then he killed her, didn't he?
Allegedly, his sister Angela told him to tell Terry about the murder of their mother, but no one knows if he did or not. Some people suspect that Terry knew about what Charlie had done, but decided to ignore this troubling piece of his past. The couple moved to Pine Key, Florida.
Oh yeah, she looks like she would marry a serial killer.
And
Yeah.
in love, if almost inseparable.
Yeah, she looks like she would marry a serial killer, yeah.
Charlie was described by all who knew him as a nice, easygoing, and quiet guy, and none would have guessed at his dark past as a child. But in September of 2004, the couple were forced to evacuate as Hurricane Ivan swept into the area. This proved to be a catalyst for the couple's downward spiral. Luckily, their niece, Michelle Jones, had a house near Orlando and offered them a place to stay with her to wait out the storm. Michelle had invited some friends to come over on September 13th, but she canceled after she and Charlie and Terry got into an alcohol-induced argument. For a few days after this phone call, no one could get in contact with Michelle.
Of course.
And her friends and mother began to worry.
Of course.
One of her close friends, Debbie Knight, decided to go and check up on Michelle herself on the 15th. And what she discovered was utterly shocking. The house was locked, and so to get inside, Debbie broke into the garage. Inside, she found Charlie's body.
Oh, what a twist! What a twist! What a twist! What a twist! What a great twist!
Body was decomposing and hanging from the rafters, where it appeared that he had taken his own life. Debbie didn't go any further and immediately called the police.
Oh, fuck.
Inside, police found Terry's body on the couch, stabbed 7 times. Michelle had been decapitated, with her head placed carefully next to her body, and her heart and organs removed.
Oh my god.
There were no signs of an intruder.
Oh my god.
Police determined that it had once again been Charlie who murdered those around him. But this isn't the main twist of the case.
Oh my god, dude.
After more investigation, the police uncovered that Charlie had a large collection of books, posters, and news
Serial
clippings
killing.
about surgery. Plus, his internet history showed that he frequently looked up videos of autopsies. But it was the practiced nature with which Michelle's body had been attacked and arranged that really alerted the police's attention. Evidence led police to believe that Charlie had experienced killing people more than he could have learned through just shooting his parents and through his obsession with autopsies. They started looking into cold cases in the area of Florida where he lived. But as Charlie traveled frequently for his job, they expanded the search to include all of Florida and the broader U.S. Police looked for any cases that seemed to fit the particular way that Charlie had arranged Michelle's body. Through the investigation, Charlie was first connected to the death of Sherry Parashow. Sherry had been killed about 1,000 feet from his and Terry's home in 1989. Her heart had been removed, which became part of Charlie's M.O. and helped to connect him to the case.
He told him, he got that.
Terry had seen blood on Charlie on the night that Sherry died,
and she
had turned to her then brother-in-law to say that she suspected something was amiss.
Oh, what
Yet
an idiot.
nothing ever came of her comments at the time. Charlie was then also found to be guilty of killing Darlene Toller in 1995, whose body was missing both her heart and her head. Her body had been found along a highway that Charlie used frequently. Both Sherry and Darlene's manner of deaths were described as surgical. But the case took another startling twist when Charlie's double life was exposed. He was connected to another 24 unsolved murders in Florida, some from as far back as 1973, which is the year he moved to the state. This year also means that Charlie started his career as a prolific serial killer at only 16. Though he hasn't been definitively found guilty of all 24 deaths, police believe that he is likely the culprit. It hasn't been ruled out that Charlie may have committed even more murders in Florida, as well as possibly in other areas where he lived previously. His case, along with the other cases we have discussed today, goes to show that you can't truly know a person, and that the people around you could be harboring dark secrets.
Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Alright, enough crime. Enough crime shit, bro. Enough crime.